The recipe book felt impossibly heavy in my hands as I stared at the lawyer across his polished mahogany desk. "This can't be right," I whispered, my voice trembling. "There has to be some mistake. My name is Melanie, and 2 weeks ago, I lost my mother. Today, I lost everything else." "I assure you, the will is legally binding," Mr. Peterson said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. "Your sister Teresa inherits the house, the savings, and all other assets. You receive your mother's personal recipe collection." I glanced at Teresa, who sat perfectly poised in her designer suit, not a blonde hair out of place. She didn't meet my eyes. "Mom would never do this," I said, gripping the leather-bound book until my knuckles turned white. "She always said she'd split everything equally between us." "People change their minds, Mel," Teresa replied smoothly. "Maybe if you'd visited more often instead of being so wrapped up in your career." "I was here every weekend." My voice cracked. "I was the one who took care of her during chemo while you were gallivanting around Europe." "Ladies, please," Mr. Peterson intervened. "The will is clear. I understand this is difficult, but show me her signature," I demanded, standing up. "I want to see it." Teresa's perfectly manicured hand twitched slightly, a tell I recognized from our childhood card games. My stomach dropped as Mr. Peterson slid the document across his desk. I studied the signature, my vision blurring with tears. After spending months helping Mom sign medical forms with her weakened hands, I knew every wobble and curve of her signature. This wasn't it. This was a forgery. "You forged this," I whispered, looking directly at Teresa. "How could you?" "That's a serious accusation," she snapped, but her left eye twitched. Another tell. "You're just upset because Mom knew I would manage the inheritance better. I mean, look at you, still working as a line cook while I run my own events company." "Miss Peterson," I turned to the lawyer, "I want to contest this will." "You can," he replied carefully, "but without concrete proof of forgery, it would be your word against the document. The process could take years and cost thousands in legal fees. Money I didn't have. Money that should have been mine." Teresa stood, smoothing her skirt. "I think we're done here. Mel, I'll give you a week to move your things out of Mom's house." She paused at the door. "And please, don't make this harder than it needs to be." I sat there long after they left, clutching Mom's recipe book. Each page was filled with her neat handwriting, margin notes about which spices to adjust, little hearts drawn next to our childhood favorites. 20 years of love and memories, reduced to my only inheritance. That evening, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by moving boxes, scrolling through Teresa's company website. Elegant Events by Teresa boasted about their exclusive corporate clients and 5-star catering. The same company that had rejected my job application 6 months ago. My phone buzzed, a text from Ruby, my best friend since culinary school. "How did it go?" I sent back a quick summary. "That witch. Want me to come over?" "No, I need to think." I flipped through Mom's recipe book again, pausing at her famous chocolate torte recipe, the one that won her the state fair 3 years running. The one Teresa had begged for but Mom had always refused to share, saying, "Some recipes need to be earned." Suddenly, I noticed something tucked in the back of the book, a list of Mom's business contacts from her catering days, including several corporate event planners. A plan started forming in my mind. I grabbed my laptop and started researching business licenses and LLC formation. If Teresa thought she could steal my inheritance and get away with it, she was about to learn a hard lesson about karma. My phone buzzed again. "Ruby, whatever you're planning, I'm in." I smiled for the first time in weeks. "Meet me tomorrow." Bringing Mom's recipe book. Time to cook up some revenge. As I closed the book, my fingers traced Mom's handwritten note on the inside cover. "To my girls, may these recipes bring you as much joy as they brought me." Below it, in smaller writing, "P.S. The secret ingredient is always love, and sometimes a little spite." Oh, Mom, if you only knew how right you were about that spite part. I opened my banking app and checked my savings. $12,473. Not much, but enough to start a catering business. And I had just found a fascinating loophole in Teresa's company operations, one that would let me become her biggest competitor without her even knowing it. Game on, sis. Let's see how you like the taste of revenge served cold. You want to do what? Ruby stared at me over her coffee cup, her dark eyes wide with disbelief. We were sitting in my tiny new commercial kitchen, surrounded by second-hand equipment I'd scraped together over the past month. Create a shell company, I explained, spreading out the paperwork. Look, Teresa's events company subcontracts all their catering. They're too focused on the glamorous stuff, venue coordination, decorations, entertainment. The actual food is an afterthought. Ruby picked up one of Mom's recipe cards. And you want to become their secret supplier? Exactly. But not as myself. As. I pulled out the business registration forms, Fresh Fair Catering, owned by Michelle Chin. Your middle name and Mom's maiden name. Ruby nodded appreciatively. Sneaky. But how are you going to get them to hire you? I opened my laptop, pulling up a local business networking event. Remember James from culinary school? He's an event coordinator for Tech Solutions now. They're one of Teresa's biggest clients. The guy who still drools over your creme brulee? The very same. He's already agreed to recommend us for their next corporate lunch series. If we nail that, word will spread. Ruby drummed her fingers on the counter. You know this is crazy, right? You'll need staff, equipment, everything. That's where you come in. I reached into my bag and pulled out partnership papers. How'd you like to be my head chef? 25% stake in the company. Ruby's eyes widened. No, I can't afford Dash. Your skills are your investment. I've got the startup costs covered. I didn't mention I'd maxed out 2 credit cards to make it happen. Plus, you hate your current job. True, she admitted. That country club is slowly killing my soul, one overcooked steak at a time. The timer dinged, and I pulled a chocolate torte from the oven, Mom's recipe, with my own twist. The aroma of dark chocolate and espresso filled the kitchen. Here's the best part, I said, setting it to cool. Teresa's never actually tasted Mom's best recipes. She was too busy climbing the corporate ladder to learn them. Ruby's face broke into a slow grin. So when your food starts getting rave reviews, she won't have a clue it's her own sister's cooking. 2 weeks later, we catered our first Tech Solutions lunch. I watched nervously as James took his first bite of the torte. His eyes closed in bliss. Michelle, this is incredible. Where have you been hiding? Small private events, mostly, I lied smoothly. We're ready to expand. Well, consider this your audition passed with flying colors. We have a major client appreciation dinner next month. Interested? Absolutely, I said, keeping my voice professional while my heart raced. What's the client? Elegant Events by Teresa. They're handling the overall coordination, but they need a reliable catering partner. Their last one just dropped out. I nearly dropped my serving tray. That's perfect timing. That evening, I sat in my apartment, staring at the official email request from Teresa's company. They wanted to meet with Michelle to discuss a potential partnership. My phone buzzed with a text from Ruby. Got the contract. They want us to do all their corporate events. I smiled, remembering how Teresa had mocked my culinary career. Just a line cook, she'd said. If she only knew she was about to hand her company's reputation over to that same line cook. My laptop pinged with another email, this time from Bradley, Teresa's fiance. He was apparently handling the contract negotiations. Dear Miss Chin, your reputation precedes you. We'd love to schedule a tasting session next week. Our CEO, Teresa, has extremely high standards for our corporate partners. I picked up Mom's recipe book, running my fingers over the worn cover. Don't worry, Mom. I'll meet those standards. And then some. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Teresa, sending her monthly family update to our relatives. Business is booming. Just landed 3 new major corporate clients. So blessed to be carrying on Mom's legacy through my success. I screenshot the text and sent it to Ruby with my own message. Little does she know, Mom's legacy is about to become her worst nightmare. Ruby replied immediately, "You're evil." I love it. See you tomorrow, Michelle. I closed my laptop and walked to my kitchen, pulling out ingredients for tomorrow's test recipes. Time to show my dear sister exactly what a line cook could do. The best revenge, after all, would be served on a silver platter, one delicious bite at a time. The food is exquisite, Michelle. Bradley beamed at me across the tasting table, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. These appetizers alone are better than anything we've served at our last 3 events. I adjusted my dark-framed glasses, part of my Michelle disguise, and smiled politely. Thank you. The mushroom vol au vent are a family recipe. They remind me of something. He took another bite, brow furrowed. I can't quite place it. Of course he couldn't. He'd only tasted Mom's cooking once at a family dinner last Christmas, before she got too sick. Before Teresa stole everything. Where's Teresa? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. I thought she'd be joining us. Emergency venue crisis. Bradley rolled his eyes good-naturedly. She sends her apologies. But I'm authorized to make decisions in her absence. Ruby emerged from the kitchen with the main course. Herb-crusted salmon with citrus beurre blanc, she announced, setting down the plates. Bradley's eyes widened at the first bite. This is incredible. Your chef is talented. Ruby's the best in the business, I said proudly. We're a package deal. Well, consider me sold. He pulled out a contract. We'd like to offer you an exclusive partnership. All our corporate events for the next year. My hands trembled slightly as I accepted the papers. That's quite an opportunity. Teresa's very particular about maintaining our company's reputation. But your references are impeccable, and this food. He gestured at his nearly empty plate. This is exactly the level of quality we need. Later that evening, I sat in my car outside Teresa's office building, watching her walk to her Mercedes. She was on the phone, laughing. The Watson account is in the bag, she was saying loudly enough for me to hear through my cracked window. Once we secure their holiday party, we'll be the top events company in the city. I smiled, thinking of the contract in my bag. The Watson holiday party would be my biggest event yet, and Teresa had no idea she'd just handed it to her estranged sister. My phone buzzed with a text from Ruby. You'll never guess who just called. The mayor's office wants us to cater their annual charity gala. The one Teresa's company is organizing? I texted back. The very same. Apparently, someone at the Watson Corp raved about our food. I drove home, my mind racing. This was moving faster than I'd expected. In just 3 months, Michelle Chin had become the hottest new caterer in the city. The next morning, I was prepping in our kitchen when Bradley stopped by unexpectedly. Just wanted to drop off the signed contract, he said, then hesitated. And to ask a favor. I froze, worried my disguise had somehow slipped. Oh! Would you consider catering my wedding? It's in 6 months. I nearly dropped the whisk I was holding. Your wedding. I know it's not your usual corporate event, he continued, but I can't stop thinking about your food. Teresa wants to use her regular caterer, but... He lowered his voice. Between us, their food is mediocre at best. The irony was almost too perfect. Won't Teresa mind? Leave Teresa to me. He winked. I'll tell her Michelle Chin is the next big thing in catering. She loves being ahead of trends. That evening, I met Ruby at our usual bar. You're catering your own sister's wedding? She nearly choked on her drink. That's either brilliant or insane. Maybe both. I showed her the text I'd just received from Teresa. Bradley raves about your catering. Normally, I handle all wedding decisions, but he's quite adamant. Let's meet next week to discuss the menu. I have very specific requirements. Ruby raised her glass. To specific requirements. May they taste like karma. I clinked glasses with her, remembering all the times Teresa had belittled my cooking. Now she'd be serving it at her own wedding. My phone buzzed again, an email from the mayor's office confirming the gala contract. Below it was a message from Bradley with the preliminary wedding guest list. Over 300 names, including every major player in the city's business community. You know what this means? Ruby said, reading over my shoulder. When you finally reveal yourself at the wedding, everyone who matters in the city will be there to witness it. I smiled, thinking of Mom's recipe book sitting in my office. I think it's time to start planning a very special wedding menu. The best part? Teresa had always insisted she knew everything about fine dining. But she was about to serve her wedding guests the very recipes she'd stolen from me, and she wouldn't even know it until it was too late. Everything has to be perfect, Teresa declared, pacing around my commercial kitchen. The Watson holiday party is next week, and half the wedding guests will be there. This is our chance to impress them twice. I nodded, maintaining my Michelle persona while she inspected every surface with her critical eye. 5 months of catering her events, and she still hadn't recognized me behind the glasses and professionally styled hair. The menu you proposed. She tapped her tablet. It's ambitious. I deliver what I promise, I said, sliding a sample plate toward her. Try the seared scallops. Teresa took a delicate bite, and I watched her expression change from skepticism to surprise. These were Mom's recipe, the same ones Teresa had claimed were too basic, years ago. This sauce, it's incredible. Family secret, I said, suppressing a smirk. Ruby burst through the kitchen doors, her chef's coat slightly flour-dusted. Michelle, we have a situation. The Watson party just doubled their guest list. They're now expecting 600 people, not 300. Teresa's face paled. That's impossible. The venue can barely hold 400. We can handle the food, I said calmly, though my heart was racing. But you'll need to sort out the space issue. Handle it? Just like that? Teresa snapped. Do you know how much extra staff we'll need? I met her gaze steadily. I know exactly what it takes to feed 600 people. Unlike some, I actually worked my way up in this industry. Teresa's eyes narrowed at my tone, but her phone buzzed before she could respond. Her face fell as she read the message. The venue just canceled. Burst pipe. The whole place is flooded. She slumped against the counter. This is a disaster. The Watson contract is crucial for the wedding connections. I watched my sister, the one who'd stolen my inheritance, nearly crumble under the pressure. Part of me enjoyed seeing her squirm, but another part remembered how Mom always said success meant lifting others up, not pushing them down. I might have a solution, I said slowly. I know someone at the Grand Plaza Hotel. The Grand Plaza? They're booked solid for months. Let me make a call. I stepped into my office and called James from Tech Solutions. He owed me a favor after I'd saved his company's investor dinner last month. 10 minutes later, I returned to find Teresa stress-eating one of our test pastries. It's done. The Grand Plaza had a last-minute cancellation. They can accommodate 600 people next Thursday. Teresa stared at me like I'd just performed a miracle. How did you? Like I said, I know people. I turned to Ruby. We'll need to adjust the menu for the larger space. Can you call in the backup team? Ruby nodded and disappeared into the kitchen. I don't understand, Teresa said, following me as I checked our inventory. Why are you helping me? Most caterers would use this crisis to negotiate a better deal. Because you're my sister, and despite everything, Mom raised us better than that, I thought. Instead, I said, your success is my success. We're partners now. Later that night, Ruby and I sat in my office, surrounded by staffing schedules and prep lists. You could have let her fail, Ruby said, pouring us both a glass of wine. It would have served her right. I picked up Mom's recipe book, now well-worn from constant use. Remember what Mom always said about revenge? The best revenge is living well, Ruby quoted, then grinned. Though I doubt she meant living well while secretly sabotaging your sister's business empire. My phone buzzed with a text from Bradley. Michelle, you're a lifesaver. Teresa's actually smiling again. Whatever your fee for fixing this, I'll double it. No need, I texted back. Just make sure everyone at the wedding knows who catered it. Ruby read the text over my shoulder. Speaking of the wedding, are you sure you want to go through with the big reveal? You've built something amazing here. Why risk it? I walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. In the reflection, I caught a glimpse of myself, not Melanie the betrayed sister, not Michelle the successful caterer, but someone in between. Because this was never about the money, I said finally. It's about justice. About showing Teresa that everything she built her success on was stolen, from Mom, from me. And after. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Teresa. Thank you for today. I've added a clause to the wedding contract. Full creative control over the menu is yours. I trust you. I showed Ruby the message, and we both burst out laughing at the irony. Well, Ruby said, raising her glass, here's to creative control. May Teresa enjoy every bite of her karma. I clinked glasses with her, already planning the wedding menu. It would be all Mom's signature dishes, every recipe Teresa had tried to steal, served up with a side of long overdue truth. "Look who finally decided to grace us with her presence," Teresa announced as I walked into our aunt's house for Sunday dinner. "The prodigal sister returns." I forced a smile, clutching the dessert I'd brought. After 6 months of seeing her almost daily as Michelle, these family gatherings as Melanie were getting harder to endure. "Sorry I've been busy," I said. "Work's been crazy." "Still doing that little catering thing?" Teresa smirked. "You should meet my new caterer, Michelle. She might have some positions available." Bradley appeared from the kitchen. "Melanie, perfect timing. Try these appetizers. They're from Michelle's company." "Incredible, right?" I bit into one of my own mushroom vol au vent, pretending to taste it for the first time. "They're familiar somehow." "That's what I keep saying," Bradley exclaimed. "They remind me of something, but I can't place it." Teresa rolled her eyes. "They're just mushrooms and pastry, Bradley. Nothing revolutionary." "Actually," our Aunt Jane chimed in, "they taste just like your mother's recipe." The room went quiet. Teresa's smile faltered for a moment. "That's ridiculous," she said sharply. "Mom never shared her recipes with anyone except." She glanced at me, then quickly looked away. "Except me," I finished, meeting her gaze. "In that old recipe book you thought was worthless." Before Teresa could respond, Bradley pulled out his phone. "Michelle just sent the final wedding menu. Melanie, you have to see this. The dishes are amazing." I watched Teresa's face as Bradley scrolled through my carefully crafted menu, every item a recreation of Mom's signature dishes. Her expression shifted from annoyance to something almost like fear. "We need to change it," she said suddenly. "It's too traditional." "But you approved it yesterday," Bradley protested. "You said it was perfect." "Well, I changed my mind," Teresa snapped. "And since when do you make decisions about my wedding without consulting me?" "Our wedding," Bradley corrected quietly. "And Michelle's food is the one thing I've asked to have input on." I slipped into the kitchen, needing a moment to compose myself, but Bradley followed me. "Sorry about that," he said, helping me unpack my dessert. "Teresa's just stressed about the wedding. But between us," he lowered his voice, "I think she's jealous of Michelle's success. Half her corporate clients are requesting Michelle exclusively now." I nearly dropped the cake knife. "Really?" The Watson holiday party was a game changer. Everyone's talking about the food. He grinned. "Don't tell Teresa, but I heard the mayor's wife asking for Michelle's private number." Back in the dining room, Aunt Jane was showing old family photos to Bradley's parents. "Here's Melanie winning the junior cooking competition. She learned everything from her mother." "I remember that day," I said, serving the dessert. "Mom was so proud." "Please," Teresa interrupted. "Anyone can win a children's cooking contest. Building a successful business takes real talent." I watched her take a bite of my chocolate torte, Mom's recipe, the one she'd won awards for. Teresa's eyes widened slightly. "This is..." She looked down at her plate, then at me. "Where did you get this recipe?" "Family secret," I said, using the same words I'd used as Michelle. For a moment, I saw recognition flicker across her face. Bradley broke the tension. "Speaking of secrets, Melanie, would you consider helping with the wedding? We could use someone who knows food to coordinate with Michelle's team." Teresa choked on her wine. "Absolutely not." "Why not?" Bradley asked. "She's your sister, and she has experience, Dash." "Because I said no." Teresa stood up abruptly. "This is my wedding, and I won't have her involved." The room fell silent. Bradley's parents exchanged uncomfortable looks. "I should go," I said quietly, gathering my things. "Thanks for dinner, Aunt Jane." Outside, my phone buzzed with a text from Ruby, "Emergency at the kitchen. The wedding cake test samples for tomorrow." I texted back quickly, "On my way." Another message popped up, this one from Bradley. "I'm sorry about Teresa, but I have an idea. Can we meet tomorrow? Just don't tell my fiance." I smiled, typing my response. "Michelle will be at the kitchen all day. Stop by any time." As I drove to the kitchen, I thought about Teresa's face when she tasted the torte. She knew. Deep down, she had to know those were Mom's recipes. But admitting it would mean admitting what she'd stolen from me. Well, she'd have to admit it soon enough. The wedding was 3 weeks away, and every dish would be a reminder of her betrayal. Let her enjoy her control and superiority for now. Because in 3 weeks, everyone would know exactly who had been feeding her success, one recipe at a time. You want me to what? I stared at Bradley across my kitchen counter, momentarily forgetting to maintain my Michelle persona. Be my best woman, he repeated. I know it's unconventional, but you've become a good friend these past months, and honestly. He lowered his voice. I need someone in my corner for this wedding. I adjusted my fake glasses nervously. Does Teresa know you're asking me? Not yet. But after seeing how she treated her sister at dinner yesterday, he shook his head. I'm starting to see a side of her I never noticed before. The irony of this conversation was almost too much to bear. Here was my sister's fiance, asking her caterer to be his best woman, not knowing said caterer was actually the sister his bride-to-be had just humiliated. Ruby chose that moment to burst in. Michelle, the wedding cake samples are ready for… Oh, hi Bradley. Perfect timing, he said. Maybe you can help convince her. Ruby shot me a questioning look. I gave a slight nod, and her eyes widened as she caught on. Actually, I said slowly, I have a confession to make, Bradley. But before I could continue, the kitchen doors flew open. Teresa stormed in, waving her phone. What is this? She demanded, shoving the screen in my face. It showed an email from the Chamber of Commerce. They were presenting their Entrepreneur of the Year award to Michelle Chin. Congratulations. I offered. This was supposed to be my award. Teresa's voice shook. I've been working toward this for years, and some caterer comes out of nowhere and steals it? Bradley touched her arm. Honey, it's just an award dash. Just an award? She jerked away from him. This was going to be my moment. First the Watson contract, then the mayor's office, and now this? Who are you really? She turned to me, eyes blazing. For a moment, I thought she'd figured it out. But she was too angry to see what was right in front of her. I'm just good at what I do, I said quietly. No one's that good, she snapped. These recipes, they're too familiar. Have you been spying on my company? Ruby stepped forward. Maybe you should leave. Or what? Teresa laughed bitterly. You'll stop catering my wedding? Good luck finding someone else who can handle it with 2 weeks' notice. Teresa, Bradley's voice was stern. Apologize. Apologize? To the person who's systematically stealing my clients. She grabbed one of the cake samples and took an angry bite. Then froze. I knew what she was tasting, Mom's signature orange almond cake, the one she'd made for every special occasion. This is… Teresa's face went pale. This is Mom's recipe. Yes, I said simply. But that's impossible. The only person who has those recipes is… Her eyes widened as realization finally dawned. Slowly, deliberately, I removed my glasses. Hello, sis. The cake sample fell from her hand. Bradley looked between us, confused. Wait, what's going on? Ask your fiance, I said, maintaining eye contact with Teresa. Ask her about Mom's will. About how she forged the signature to steal my inheritance. That's a lie. Teresa's voice cracked. Bradley, she's lying. Am I? I pulled out Mom's recipe book. Every dish you've been serving at your events, every bite your clients have been raving about, they're all from this book. The one you thought was worthless compared to Mom's money. Bradley's face hardened as understanding set in. Teresa, is this true? I can explain, Dash. The signature, he cut her off. Did you forge it? The silence was deafening. Ruby quietly began filming with her phone. You don't understand, Teresa finally whispered. I needed the capital to grow my business. Melanie was just a cook. I knew what to do with the money. And now, I asked, how does it feel knowing your success was built on the very recipes you dismissed? Bradley stepped away from Teresa. I can't believe this. The wedding is in 2 weeks, I finished. And everyone who matters in the city will be there. Everyone who's been praising your catering, Teresa. Should we tell them who really deserves the credit? You wouldn't dare, she breathed. Try me. Bradley turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, Melanie. I still want you as my best woman. The real you. He looked at Teresa. We need to talk. Now. After they left, Ruby stopped recording. That was intense. Are you okay? I picked up the fallen cake sample. You know what's funny? Even after everything, she still didn't recognize Mom's recipes until I told her. She never paid attention to what mattered. So, Ruby said, 2 weeks until the wedding. What's the plan? I smiled, thinking of the guest list full of corporate clients, the Chamber of Commerce Awards ceremony scheduled for the same day, and the speech I'd been preparing for months. The plan? We're going to give them a wedding they'll never forget. The wedding venue buzzed with anticipation as 300 of the city's most influential people took their seats. I stood at the back, no longer wearing my Michelle disguise, watching Teresa fret over last-minute details. The cake isn't centered properly, she snapped at a server. And where are those appetizers? Michelle should be here by now. Bradley caught my eye from across the room and gave a subtle nod. After our confrontation 2 weeks ago, he'd chosen to go ahead with the wedding, with conditions. Condition 1, I would reveal the truth during the reception. Condition 2, Teresa would have to make it right. Ruby appeared at my side, chef's coat immaculate. Everything's ready. Are you sure about this? Before I could answer, the mayor's wife approached us. Ruby, where's Michelle? I simply must get her recipe for that amazing torte from last week's gala. Oh, you'll see her soon, Ruby smiled. Very soon. The ceremony itself was picture perfect, just as Teresa had planned. She glided down the aisle in designer white, the picture of success and sophistication. Only those of us who knew the truth saw her hands shaking as she recited her vows. During the reception, I watched as guests raved over each course, Mom's recipes, every single one. Teresa grew more agitated with each compliment. Has anyone seen Michelle? She kept asking. She's supposed to be supervising. Finally, it was time for the speeches. Bradley stood first, his words carefully chosen. Before we continue, there's someone special who'd like to say a few words, someone who made this celebration possible. Teresa's head snapped up as I walked to the microphone. The room fell silent. Many of you know me as Melanie, sister of the bride. But for the past year, you've also known me as Michelle Chin. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I pulled out Mom's recipe book. This book represents my real inheritance. While my sister took everything else through a forged will, these recipes, our mother's legacy, became the foundation of what you've all been praising as the city's best catering. Gasps and whispers filled the room. The mayor's wife's hand flew to her mouth. Teresa gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white. Every dish you've enjoyed tonight came from this book. The same book my sister dismissed as worthless when she stole my inheritance. I opened it to a marked page. Mom's orange almond cake, the wedding cake you're about to eat. Her famous mushroom vol au vent that the Watson Corporation specifically requested. The torte that won the mayor's gala contract. That's enough. Teresa stood abruptly. No, it's not, Bradley said firmly. Let her finish. I held up the Chamber of Commerce award I'd received that morning. This award for Entrepreneur of the Year? It belongs to these recipes. To Mom's legacy. The legacy you tried to steal, Teresa. The room erupted in shocked conversations. I saw phones recording, society columnists scribbling frantically. You're ruining everything. Teresa screamed, mascara starting to run. This is my wedding. No, I said calmly. This is justice. Every client in this room needs to know who really created the food they've been praising. Who really built this success. James from Tech Solutions stood up. We're changing our contract to work directly with you, Melanie. No more middleman. Others began nodding in agreement. The mayor's wife was already typing on her phone. Teresa lunged for the microphone, but Bradley caught her arm. Don't, he warned. You've done enough. I had to do it, she cried out. You were always Mom's favorite. Always the talented one, the special one. I just wanted to prove you were better than me. I finished. How did that work out? Ruby appeared with a slice of wedding cake, Mom's recipe. I placed it in front of Teresa. You know what Mom would say right now. The secret ingredient is always love, and sometimes a little spite. Teresa collapsed into her chair, finally defeated. Bradley stood and addressed the crowd. I think we all need a moment to process this. Please, enjoy your dinner. The cake will be served shortly. As the buzz of conversation resumed, Ruby nudged me. Look at your phone. Local news websites were already running the story. Wedding drama. Rising star chef reveals sister's fraud. Chamber of Commerce to review award after shocking revelation. What now? Ruby asked softly. I watched Teresa sitting alone at the head table, Bradley deep in conversation with his lawyers across the room. Now? We build something honest. Something Mom would be proud of. I picked up my award. But first, I think it's time to serve the cake. Mom's way, with love and just a little spite. The justice I'd waited for had finally been served, and like all of Mom's recipes, it was worth every careful step of preparation. The autumn breeze rustled through the cemetery as I placed fresh flowers on Mom's grave. The headlines from the wedding had barely died down, but life had a way of moving forward. I brought something, I said, setting Mom's recipe book beside the flowers. And someone. Footsteps crunched on fallen leaves behind me. Teresa stood there, looking smaller without her designer suits and perfect makeup. I didn't think you'd come, I said. Bradley's lawyers made it clear. She hugged herself against the chill. Full confession, return of the inheritance, or face fraud charges. I traced Mom's name on the headstone. That's not why I asked you here. Then why? Her voice cracked. To gloat? You've won, Melanie. The business, the clients, the reputation, it's all yours now. No. I opened the recipe book to the last page, where Mom's handwriting filled the margins. I found this yesterday. It's addressed to both of us. Teresa stepped closer, reluctantly peering at the page. To my girls, she read, then stopped, her hand flying to her mouth. Keep reading, I urged. Her voice shook. I know you'll both find your own paths, but remember, success means nothing if you lose each other along the way. Teresa, your ambition is a gift, but don't let it blind you to what matters. Melanie, your talent comes from love. Don't let anger take that away. She knew us so well, I said softly. Both our strengths and our weaknesses. Teresa sank to her knees beside the grave. I thought if I could just prove I was successful on my own. But you never needed to prove anything. I sat beside her. Mom was proud of your business sense, your drive. She told me all the time. She did? Why do you think she wanted us to split the inheritance? Your business skills, my recipes, we were supposed to work together. A sob escaped her. I ruined everything. Not everything. I pulled out a folder. I had my lawyers draw up partnership papers. A real one this time, no secrets. She stared at me. After what I did? Mom was right. Success means nothing if we lose each other. I handed her the papers. Elegant Events needs a strong business leader. And I need someone who understands the corporate world better than I do. But your new company will merge with yours. We'll rebuild, the right way this time. Teresa wiped her eyes, looking at the contract. 50-50 split? Just like Mom wanted. I smiled. Though I get final say on all recipes. A weak laugh escaped her. Deal. She glanced at Mom's grave. Do you think she'd forgive me? She already did. It's written right here. I pointed to the last line of Mom's note. Remember, girls, in cooking and in life, there's always room for second chances. Just follow the recipe, start fresh, measure carefully, and add plenty of love. Ruby appeared at the cemetery gate, carrying a picnic basket. Hope I'm not interrupting. Perfect timing, I said. Teresa, remember those Sunday picnics we used to have here with Mom? Ruby spread out a blanket and opened the basket, revealing familiar containers. Mel made all of Mom's favorites, including, I added, pulling out the last container, her famous chocolate torte. The one you loved so much as a kid. Teresa's eyes welled up again. You remembered? Of course. You'd always sneak extra pieces when Mom wasn't looking. She knew. Teresa laughed softly. She always made extra just for me. We sat there, sharing Mom's recipes and memories, the autumn sun warming our faces. Ruby poured 3 cups of coffee, Mom's special blend. To fresh starts, Ruby raised her cup. And family recipes, I added. Teresa held up her cup, her other hand still holding the partnership papers. To second chances. As we ate, I watched my sister slowly relax, saw glimpses of the girl who used to sneak extra desserts and dream big dreams. The revenge I'd planned had transformed into something Mom would have wanted all along: reconciliation. So, Teresa said, finishing her tort, about that Watson holiday party next month. Already working on the menu, I smiled. But I could use some help with the business proposal. I might know a thing or two about that. She paused. Partners? I reached out and squeezed her hand. Partners. Above us, leaves danced in the breeze, and I swore I could smell Mom's perfume mingling with the scent of chocolate and coffee. Some recipes, it turned out, were about more than just food. They were about healing, forgiveness, and the kind of love that, like Mom's best dishes, only got better with time.